This video presentation is being presented to you by Alex, Karuna and Patricia. Our case study is based on a provocation in Patricia's prac school. It's a Year 3 class in a Catholic co-ed school comprising of 28 pupils.
How will I control my class?
As teachers, we will be faced with many challenges in our classroom, including but not limited to these issues. It is important that we develop ways to effectively control our students in order to facilitate learning. With so many things happening day to day in the classroom, we must have a structure in place that allows us to manage bad behavior efficiently.
We have decided that our case study will focus on a behavioural problem in a Year 3 class and how this was managed by the teacher. We will highlight the pros and cons of the teacher's approach to managing the behaviour and what theory or theories this approach seemed to support. A behavioural issue arose in class where one of the boys was refusing to do his work and tried his best to distract his peers from doing their work. He would swing in his chair, laugh uncontrollably, and call to his friends on the other side of the room. This was having an impact on the rest of the class, as some of the class were giggling and being distracted from their work, which seemed to encourage the student to misbehave even more. At first, the teacher seemed to scan the room quietly, assessing how the behaviour was affecting the rest of the students. She then acknowledged some students who were behaving in an appropriate manner and commented, "I like the way that Matthew and Ellie are doing their work." Immediately, the rest of the class took notice, stopped giggling and continued on with their work. The boy who had been misbehaving did stop for a while, but then continued trying to distract the class after a few minutes. At this point, the teacher then acknowledged the student and issued him with a warning. Again, this only stopped the misbehaviour for a few minutes, and then he began acting out again. At this point, the teacher asked the boy to see her outside the classroom. The teacher had stated that this was to inform the student that he was to miss out on golden time on Friday if he continued with his behaviour. Golden time is free time on Fridays where the children get to play with or do what they would like within the classroom. When the student had returned to the room, he immediately got on with the task he had been given without any further distraction for the entire lesson. This approach to managing behaviour definitely worked, as the student did get back to what he was required to do. It also showed the rest of the students the teacher's expectations on how they were supposed to behave when doing their work. When the teacher was quizzed on her technique, the teacher commented that quite often she would ignore the bad behaviour to a certain extent and give positive feedback to those students performing well, in the hope that the misbehaving student would see this as a sign of what was expected. Although this worked, it did require the teacher trying to employ a few different strategies to control the behaviour of the student before finding an approach that worked best to manage the problem. This meant the student continued acting inappropriately for most of the lesson until the teacher found a solution to the issue, resulting in the teacher spending the majority of the lesson trying to control the issue rather than facilitating the lesson. Through stepping out of the classroom with the misbehaving student, we may question if this was appropriate to leave the other students unattended, as this may have been regarded as a breach of the teacher's duty of care. This classroom management approach seems to follow a few different theories. Firstly, by ignoring the bad behaviour and acknowledging the good behaviour, this seemed to follow Bill Rogers' theory on decisive discipline, where positive reinforcement of appropriate behaviour is recognised. The teacher gave the misbehaving student a choice for how he would choose to behave and the consequences of continuing to behave in an inappropriate manner. Also, the teacher had set clear expectations at the beginning of the lesson of what she expected the students to do and how she wanted them to behave. We also believe that some aspects of the teacher's classroom management did highlight Gingott's theory. For example, by asking the student to speak in private and by changing what she said from you statements to I statements. The benefit of this being that the teacher was able to address the situation without criticising or attacking the student personally. This is something that we will definitely try to do when we are teaching, as the teacher was able to put a stop to the disruption without making a big scene, and we think by not naming and shaming the student for misbehaving, it avoided conflict. The teacher stated that this particular student does not respond well when she highlights his bad behaviour. This emphasises the importance of knowing your students to determine how best to control them. We think it's important as teachers to have a few different strategies to control students, as each student is unique and will respond to different types of discipline in different ways. This was clearly evident through this teacher's use of many different approaches.
Discipline is important for a child's success and development. Most teaching staff would vouch for that. It's easy to think that discipline is always a form of punishment, but in truth, this doesn't have to be the case. There are many different theories on classroom management and ways to tackle behavior problems. One theory demonstrating ways to control students in the classroom comes from Lee Cantor, who underlies assumptions that students must be forced to comply with rules and follow them. Punishment is allowed and good behavior is encouraged with positive reinforcement. School staff and parents must also reinforce the rules. This theory is called assertive theory and emphasizes on punishing unacceptable behaviors and providing reinforcement for good behavior. Also, it tells us to increase the severity of the punishment in case students continue to show disruptive behavior. The strengths of this theory: it's simple to use, the teacher's personal desires are enforced, it involves parents and school staff in behavioral issues and discipline. The weakness of this theory: although Cantor recommends using positive reinforcement while emphasizing negative consequences, in actual practice, positive reinforcement may be excluded. Negative consequences on punishment stimulates rebellion and promotes the very behavior it is designed to eliminate.
Another theorist, B.F. Skinner, believed that the positive reinforcement was more effective than punishment. According to Skinner, used in a variety of situations, this has been found to be particularly effective in the classroom environment. One of the main ways of reinforcing a behavior is through praise. Students feel pleased with themselves after getting positive responses. The feeling of pride and self-satisfaction is one they are going to want to emulate in the future. Simple though it may be, through praise the teacher manages to educate the student on the type of behavior she expects, and through positive reinforcement the student will probably feel determined to impress next time round. Rewards may be used occasionally for a similar effect, but shouldn't be overused. As with all theories, this one also has its strengths and weaknesses. The strength of this approach is that it is simple to use and the results are immediate. It also accommodates most teachers' desire to maintain control, and students can feel successful when they obtain rewards. This approach also has some weaknesses. Some students may not perform as desired when rewards are terminated, or may not learn how to govern their own behavior. This approach may also seem too much like bribery to some teachers.
Hope you enjoyed the presentation. As you can see, there are different approaches and theories to classroom management and tackling behavior problems.
We believe that learning about these theories is important, but we should bear in mind that each class and each student is unique, and therefore different approaches are necessary.
It's entirely up to us as a teachers to decide the best approach to use to control my class.
Thank you!
Thank you!
you.